Hi everyone, this is Heather Lottinen from the Flourish.Academy. This is our weekly Q&A. Our first question comes from Jen, and she says, I just got a Mac desktop, congratulations, and downloaded Lightroom on it. I use the monthly plan, but I am completely confused. Is there the same brushes available as 2 years ago? Are there the same brushes available as 2 years ago? For example, I can't find the Iris Enhance, Soften Skin, etc. I'm pulling my hair out. Thanks, y'all. Okay, Jen, you have downloaded Lightroom CC when you really needed to download Lightroom Classic CC. So in a previous update, we talked about this. This has been several months now. Lightroom split the mobile from the Classic, and they're calling Lightroom CC is now cloud-centric, and that's their mobile version. It's version 1.0. It has extremely limited functionality, and I would say it's more for amateurs or people on the go, versus what you are used to, which is the full version of Lightroom. It is now referred to as Lightroom Classic CC. So you want to uninstall Lightroom CC that you just installed and make sure that you have Classic CC, and you will find everything you are looking for. I hope that that helps. Okay, the next question. Sarah asks, I would love to hear your explanation on how to utilize the tone curve in Lightroom in editing properly, or maybe how to read the tone curve. And actually, I have a pretty in-depth video available on the blog. I will post this link below, talking about the difference between the tone and the point curves. This is in the palette directly below the basic panel, but at a high level, I will say this. Everything that you do in the tone curve, for the most part, can be accomplished in the basic panel. They are simply two different vehicles to get you to the same destination. It's just that the tone curve has more functionality and more features. A lot of people are more comfortable in the basic panel, so they stay there, but the tone curve is a little bit fancier. Obviously, you can work with curves, you can put points, you can move them, and I have that explanation in a video. But in terms of how to use it properly, I don't think there is such a thing, because it just depends on how you wish to edit your photos based on your editing style. So I wouldn't say there's a proper way to use it. You should definitely play around with it, watch that video, and I think that will really help. Nicole says, what do you use to create albums for your clients? Do you use templates or create your own in Photoshop? This is a good question, because I have been working with wedding albums for 15 years, so I have a variety of different ways that I have approached this. How I now currently do it is a combination of using the book module inside of Lightroom, along with Photoshop for certain things that I need to do. The book module in Lightroom is actually really powerful, and I believe underutilized by most photographers. I have an entire section in my online training for Lightroom on the book module and how to produce albums. I do it all the time. I set up templates in album. Now in the book template, but what happens is people start to use the book module and they realize that they can't customize beyond a certain level. So they're working with their templates, with the templates that Lightroom provides, and then you're like, oh, I want to move this picture over this way or move this a little bit, and you can't. So it's a little bit limiting, but it's really fast. And I really like that, and it's really streamlined my workflow. So that's why I use it. Now, if you want more customization, then you're going to take that into Photoshop. I have used Photoshop templates. I have done a ton of design in Photoshop for albums in the past, and that works really well. It's just a little more time consuming, and to me, slower and not as efficient. Now, a lot of people use things like Fundy's Album Designer that they love, and I think Stomp makes one too. Do they not? Somebody help me out here in the comments. And I know some people that use that. I have not, but I've heard it's really good. I think the best thing you can do is find a tool that works for your workflow based on what you deliver to your clients. So I personally like the idea of automating as much of that process as I can, because I am not skilled at the art of album design. I am extremely competent in post-processing software. My weakness is design, layout, and art. Therefore, I personally rely heavily on templates and software to help me out in that regard. But if you're the type of person that really enjoys graphic design, layout, then you might want to play around with Photoshop to build that. Raina says album stomp is awesome. I believe that. It's probably very, very fast. Yeah, Ashley says yes, album stomp. So definitely check that out. Hey, do you guys know how much that is? Can you put a comment? I don't think it's very expensive. And if you do a lot of albums, I would definitely recommend some type of software to automate it for you. Until then, you might want to take a look at the book module inside of Lightroom. I really believe it's underutilized. I hope that helps. Okay. The next question. Ashley asks, what are some things a first-time mom can automate and have ready for the upcoming wedding season? Congratulations, Ashley. Yeah, I'm very excited for you. I'm expecting our first child this May, that's soon. And I've been trying to use my downtime to automate email templates, prep future galleries, prep future outgoing packages, and pre-write thank you notes. Is there any business advice you can give to me to help prepare me for this new life change? That's really exciting. Is there anything I can do to prepare you for this? Negative. It is going to shock your system to its core. How about that for honesty? At least it did for me. Hey, listen, some people like Susie, Leanne, oh, they skate into motherhood so beautifully and seamlessly. I did not. I struggled when Evan was born. I had 30 weddings that year. I think everything you're doing is very smart. It's exactly what I did. I set up absolutely everything I could do. So I had a shipping room in my basement in my old home, and I pre-packaged everything I could. I had everything lined up. I had emails written. I had cards written. I had boxes prepared. I actually had blog posts completely prepared, just missing maybe some words and the photos, obviously. Anything you can do ahead of time, you should, because you're going to be very, very tired. And it's going to be hard to keep up with these things. I think make some lists, get your workflow super, super tight and written down so that all you need to do is execute. Executing based on a list will be much easier than sitting down between feedings and naps trying to think. Your ability to think will be compromised. So you have to eliminate thinking wherever you can. So yes, the blog posts. I had draft blog posts for every wedding that I had scheduled I had it linked with their venues, as much information as I could put in there pre-wedding. I have a client planning form they would fill out. So I would have all of their information. I would put it in there. Everything I could do, I did ahead of time. It was still really challenging, but what I want you to remember specifically is to show yourself some grace. It's going to be hard. You might be behind on things compared to where you were previously. Don't beat yourself up about it. Watch my video on mom guilt. It's a worthless emotion. Just do your best, show yourself that grace, and move forward. The first season will obviously be the hardest. The baby is the smallest. It depends on you it's very survival. It's a lot of pressure to keep a human alive. That's your focus. It's a season, and it will pass, and it will get easier, and you'll become a pro at it. You have a lot of help and support here in the community. Leanne is pregnant. Susie just had a baby. I've been through it. There are obviously many others as well, and we're here to help you and support you. So when you struggle with something, please post and ask. Leanne is a master at planning all of these things and getting things lined up so that she doesn't have to worry, so that things just go seamlessly. And on a side note, you might want to do things like prep a month's worth of freezer meals and get them in the freezer. Your goal is to just sleep and survive when this baby is born. Therefore, anything that you can remove from your plate in terms of thinking will be good. The thinking will just kill you. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Jessica said you won't be able to think ever again. That's true. They make your head explode. I think you're going to be great, and you have a lot of support. I'm very happy for you. This is very exciting. I hope that helps. Okay. Alicia commented on that and said, I'm looking forward to this response because automation can be productive for all stages of life, like prep blogs, emails, delivery package, etc. Yeah, absolutely. Every year, Liam and I were just talking about this the other day, but I have this client workflow that I would follow, actually a printed sheet because I'm very tactile and visual and I wanted to see it where I was at with every wedding. And at the end of every wedding season, January, February, I would sit down and I would look at that workflow, and I had dates in that workflow as to targeted delivery, actual delivery, time lapse, any particular notes, I would take that sheet at the end of the year and I would study it. And I would see, okay, where are the bottlenecks and can I improve them? And ultimately what would happen is I would find one. I would find an area where I would think, okay, I could automate that, or I could prep blog posts so it doesn't become so overwhelming in the middle of wedding season. I would fix one problem, and then, you go through another year, you do that same exercise a year later, and invariably what would happen is that bottleneck would move. It would shift somewhere else. And then I would find another area that I can improve, and so on, until you're just refine, and you're getting better all of the time. Just pay attention to things that you do repeatedly and ask yourself, is there a way to automate this? Because if it's something I'm doing over and over again, there has to be a way to automate it, at least to some degree. Now, there are some things that you can't automate, but you can improve, you can make them faster by, say, like in Photoshop, by creating actions or whatever that looks like, depending on what you're talking about. Hopefully that is helpful. Charlie asks, when volunteering for a nonprofit or big public event, what are some of the things you should do? Number 1, type of contract. 2, print release. 3, certain terms and conditions. What would I want in regards to protect myself as well as make sure my business gets acknowledged? This is a good question, and the point of a contract in any business is always to protect both the client and the person providing the service. Contracts are two-way streets. They should always protect both parties. So when you put together a contract or terms and conditions, you want to think, number 1, what do they want out of this relationship? What do you want out of it? And then you're just defining that on paper. So you're taking a contract. I believe this could be as simple as one page that has obviously the contract between, you list their name, your name, the event, the date, all of those sort of high-level things. And then things like, you retain the copyright, you own those photos, but you're releasing to them for their use. What does that use look like? I would define what that use is. I would make sure you protect yourself with things like social media and print, meaning you have it defined. If this image is used on, or these images are used on social media, then a watermark or a link back to, mywebsite.com is required. How they use these photos is really important to define, because they don't know. This might be their first time working with someone. You don't know. You just have to protect yourself as well as them. I would kind of map that out in writing. I don't have the exact verbiage for you. I have multiple contracts. I would probably pull different information from those contracts and just outline that this is not paid, that there is zero exchange of dollars, and this is what you expect in return from that. You have to define what it is. What is your goal? What are you looking for? What do they want? What is the purpose? There's a lot to think about. Print release, yeah, you have to decide, are you allowing them to print these? Are they allowed to go into print? And if so, what does that look like? And what about the web? I think I've shared this story in the past, but I was super excited. This is many years ago, so pretty early in my career, when Modern Bride contacted me to run one of my photos in their magazine. Modern Bride contacted me. I am nobody. This was really exciting. They were doing an article on ballpark weddings when they were getting really big. I want to say this is 2005 or 6. And I had a beautiful wedding from PNC Park that they wanted to run. Oh my goodness, of course. So I was pretty new, and I just said, the only thing I require is that you have weddingsbyheather.com, photo courtesy, weddingsbyheather.com near the photo. Got the magazine, was so excited, opened it. Found my photo. It was a little smaller than I'd hoped for, but whatever, was still there. Could not find my name anywhere. And I was like, you guys, really? That's the one thing I asked for. It's in there. And then all of a sudden, I peel apart the binding, and it is on the inside, sideways, in probably size 2 font. weddingsbyheather.com. So I got what I asked for. Oh boy. Okay, so next time I would be more specific about prominent placement of my website directly below the image in a legible font. I would literally put that in my contract if I were to do it again, because that was a bummer. You learn. Do a quick Google search, Charlie. I bet if you searched for photography contracts for nonprofits, I bet there's one out there that you can sort of pull from. I hope that helps. Jamie asks, is it okay to post images on social media before the client has seen them? I have been posting images after delivering to clients so far because I wasn't sure if they would be wanting to see them at the same time as the world sees the images. What is the proper photographer etiquette regarding social media sneak peeks? Ooh, I like this question. I found it very interesting. I don't think there is a right or wrong way, and I don't think there's a definitive answer to this question, Jamie. I think it really depends on how you want to run your business and how you work with clients. But it's very interesting to think, would I want my client to see their images before everyone else? And I think the answer to that question is yes. I would want my client to see it before the world sees it. There's no doubt that they're going to love it. But what if? What if I chose to post an image that they didn't love? This just has me thinking about what's proper and what's not. I do post sneak peeks. I limit them. I would say if you're going to post a sneak peek, I would just post one image, one or two max. Otherwise, you're going to take away from the emotion of seeing the full gallery. Now, people that do in-person sales know this, and very few of them will post sneak peeks. If they do, it's only one image, and that's a strategy based on their pricing model. So they will wait for the client to see all of their images in person for their sales so that they can capture that emotion. That is an appropriate strategy for that type of selling. If you are doing shoot and burn or packages and that's not your model, sneak peeks prior to seeing the full gallery, they're excited. I think it's okay to show them a photo. I don't think there's any harm in that per se. Obviously, a lot of photographers have different opinions over this, and that's why I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it really depends on your business model, how you structure your pricing. But I think... Be quiet, please. I just had some visitors join me on the front porch by the name of Mr. Annie Chicken and his flock of hens, Olive, Peggy, Betsy Beatrice, Irene, and Marianne. They literally all just jumped up on the porch right in front of me. I love you. Please be quiet. He's going to look right at me and crow. That's okay. So hopefully that helps. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Photographer etiquette depends on how you want to do. Oh, I will say this. I think it's a mistake to post 100 photos right after your session as your sneak peek. I think that's a mistake. I do. I think 1 or 2 photos and you should be fine. Any more than that, and I just don't think that's a good idea, but that's my personal opinion. Okay, Vanessa asks, should the images on my website be in landscape or portrait mode? Is there a rule? No, Vanessa, they should be on your website how you took them, whether that's landscape or portrait. And at the end of every year, I do something really interesting. I go into Lightroom and I filter my pictures based on orientation. So I'll say, show me all of my landscape photos from the year and all of my portrait photos. And then I compare the numbers and I see if I am imbalanced. And usually I am. So I would say what I've noticed from photographers starting out is they are imbalanced in that many of their photos are shot in landscape orientation. And if you're just starting out, why don't you go into Lightroom, look at your last few sessions and run that filter and see it's at the top of your screen in the filter bar and say, show me all my images in landscape versus portrait. It's really interesting to see. So I do that all the time to see if I'm imbalanced, and then I correct. A lot of people are shooting landscape, try some portrait. There should be a mixture. No, on your website, no. You can post all the above, however you would like them. You could go to square format. You can do whatever you want because you are the boss of you. Nicole asks, where do you begin if you want to take self-portraits with your DSLR? How do you focus, expose, etc.? Okay, great question. Now, it's 2018, which means it's the future. So there are apps. One I've been looking at lately, I haven't installed, I haven't really started to play with yet. It's called Cam Ranger, I believe. It's an app. I would assume it's available for Android and iPhone. I have an iPhone, but I think that looks like a really nice app. Okay, previous to having apps that could do this, what I would do back in the day is I would put my DSLR on a tripod. I would obviously figure out the exposure. Be quiet! I would figure out the exposure, and then I would place something where I was going to be sitting, or if there were someone else there, and I would pre-focus. I would pre-focus, and then I would have the timer, and usually 10 seconds, and then I would run on over and sit down and take the photo. But that's kind of old school. And since it's the future, I think what you should do is look at one of these apps. Now, Taryn and I were playing with the Fuji app the other day. We both have Fuji mirrorless cameras. I have the X100F. I believe she has the T. You can connect your Fuji. Did you just not hear me say, please be quiet? You can connect the Fuji to your phone wirelessly, and on your phone, you can press it to focus and take the photo, and you can make many changes, which is really cool. So what you can do is set yourself up like way far away from your camera, have your phone with you in your hand, you can see it, and you can focus, and you're like looking at yourself, it's kind of strange. You can focus, do everything you need to do, and then kind of maybe put the phone either behind you or out of sight, and then press it. And you can trigger the camera. Isn't that awesome? It is the future. So if you are taking self-portraits, I think the best thing to do is find one of these apps that works. Otherwise, it's a whole deal with like putting something where you're going to be and pre-focusing and then running back and forth, and it takes forever. And I know you don't have that kind of time. So check out Cam Ranger, or if anyone, hey, good question, thank you. If anyone has any suggestions or apps that they use to do timer self-portraits with their DSLR, could you please comment below and let us know what we need to look into. Fuji has its own app for the Fuji cameras. Oh, it's Fuji Day. He is literally trying to get into my lap. So he's looking right at me. He's probably 3 feet away. This is Mr. Annie that keeps crowing. And I could pick him up and bring him in, but it might cause a scene, and it might. So I don't know if that would work. He's distracting. I apologize. So find an app, post it. Let us know if that helps. I'm glad that's the final question of today, because I need to have a talk with my chickens. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.